So, Sandra, I wanted to talk to you about is the work of Esther Dyson. Do you happen to know who Esther is?
No?
No. So, Esther happens to live in New York, but she is very well known in the startup world, right? Because she is one of the first investors in Square,
Mm,
Facebook, the list, 23andMe, the
good
list
for
goes
her.
on and on. And I
Yep.
was just talking to her, and she is very much very concerned about what this data, the poor use of the data, and its implications could have on society.
Yeah.
And what she is really working on right now and loves to talk about is systems change,
Mm,
how it's the systems, not just individual actions, that shape outcomes, whether it's in health, which she's trying to do a lot of work in. You would actually love her work. She's trying to go into small communities and reimagine how we could do healthcare different, starting with a small village and then trying to expand it out.
nice.
And so it's like the idea of redesigning the village, or in your the way you think about it, redesigning the digital village.
Yeah.
So if you think about, and we've been talking about this, the systematic changes that are necessary to create a healthier system, really that balances personal agency and the algorithm influence, what would some of those initial systematic changes need to be around this lens of how a person feels they matter?
I couldn't agree more. I think it's actually coming back to some of the things that we talked about earlier, right? So, because most of the time when we think about data, how do people take control of their data? It's very much on focused on the individual, right? Well, you have to manage it. When I think about systemic changes, I think about something like privacy by design. That's what we talked about. I think about something like, can we create these data co-ops that again create a system that supports you where you can come together and it's not just you. And there's also technologies that I think will drive some of the systemic change because right now you oftentimes have this trade-off between, well, I do want personalization and I do want the value that comes with data, especially in the context, right? Some of it might just be, well, I need to find a movie on Netflix and I don't have like my entire life to find the one that I want, or I have to buy headphones on Amazon and I can't now spend the next 10 weeks trying to find the ones that are most relevant. But it can also be something in the context like healthcare. It's like, yeah, I do want the insights into disease and I do want some personalized recommendations for how to be healthier and happier, but I don't necessarily want my data to be out there with the big pharma companies all in one place where it's at risk of security breaches and abuse when it comes to manipulating us in the future or exploiting us for profits. So there is now technology that essentially is trying to overcome this trade off by saying, well, how do we protect your data, but still give you the insights, the value, the convenience, and the service? It's called federated learning. And the idea is essentially instead of you having to send your data to Netflix, for example, to train their models, to send your data, your medical history, genetic data to a pharma company, and then just trust them that they're going to use it for a good purpose. You can ask Netflix to say, send their models to your phone locally. And instead of you sending all of your viewing data to Netflix, they just send their model to you based on the movies that you've watched. They update locally, and then you just send the intelligence back. So instead of the original model that said, well, we're just going to send our data to a central server, you never send your data. So you never, the data never leaves its safe harbor. What you exchange with the companies is essentially intelligence. So you have Netflix ask questions from the data, and then you can send back the intelligence. Or you can have like a pharma company ask questions from your medical data, and then you get personalized advice based on the models that they create. And so for me, this like technology is really a one that kind of creates systemic change because it eliminates this trade-off that we had to grapple with all this time. And I think if you, again, if the trade-off is I can get great service, convenience here and now, or maybe I can protect my data, my privacy, and so on here and in the future, most people will gravitate towards the immediate one, right? So I think that's another good examples for where systemic changes is necessary just to make us live up to the expectations that we have and become the best versions of ourselves.
Yep, as you write, Netflix benefits and all other users benefit
Yeah,
because your personal data never leaves its safe harbor. You don't
yeah,
need to trust a third party to securely store your data and use it for only the purposes it was intended.